Hi everyone, this is Shilpa. I am speech therapist as well as assistant director from Stepping Stone Center. I welcome you all to our third episode of our video series, Being Sensitive to Sensory Issues. A lot of parents reach us on understanding what are sensory issues and how do you identify them, and if identified, will they go away, will will it be always forever be the same? And the word stimming, I have seen sometimes even haunts parents. So to address this particular issue and to give you more information about it, um, I we have a very special guest today here. Her name is Miss Priya Buran. Ma'am has a 22 years of experience as an occupational therapist. She holds a master degree in occupational therapy as well as clinical psychology. She is certified from University of Southern California for sensory integration therapy and holds many other certificates. Um, and her specialization is in sensory issues as well as pre-writing skills. She has worked in multiple locations in India and have conducted a lot of workshops and a lot of trainings for educators, colleagues, as well as parents across India. And this is absolutely my pleasure that I'm getting a chance to interview her. Welcome, Priya ma'am. Hi, ma'am. Good morning. Uh, so happy to see you here.
Hi Shilpa, thank you. Good morning. How are you?
I am doing good. Um, this is great that I'm getting a chance to interview you. And so, without taking much time, I would like to go ahead with the first question. Is that okay?
Yeah, fine. But first of all, I really want to start, really thank you, our director, Mrs. Amrita, who had given me this opportunity on this platform to come and talk. That's really great, and I'm looking forward to do this. Thank you.
It's completely our pleasure, ma'am. So let's start with the first question. So you have been working in this field for so long. So first thing, what we want to learn from you is if you can explain the concept of sensory processing altogether, the challenges in autism spectrum, and how it differs from the typical sensory experiences.
Yeah. So, first of all, when we talk about sensory processing, we really need to understand what is normal sensory processing. In that case, normal sensory processing, which happens with every individual. So,
Yes.
it is the process of all the information gathering from the environment through all our senses, which we know, like the five senses. What we see with our eyes, what we hear through our ears, what we taste from our tongue, what we actually feel from all the skin receptors in the body, and what we smell through the nose. So these are the major five systems which we use to gather the information from the environment, and that gets processed in the brain, and we actually react according to that. So this is normal sensory processing. And when we see with the autism, according to DSM-5, they say there is a lot of difficulty in the sensory processing. So they actually started now diagnosing on that criteria where the sensory processing is the main area, like one characteristic of diagnosing autism. So they have a difficulty to process. So in that case, it might be like they are getting the information from the environment correctly, but it doesn't process in the brain properly, and it then the as it's not processing properly, they show the different behaviors, like what we see, the different many atypical behaviors like rocking, toe walking, hand flapping, like not able to sit at one place, running from one place to another place, holding something and shaking all the time, the corner gaze, yeah, looking at the fingers. This type of atypical things we do see. This is because they don't have a normal sensory processing system intact, and that's when this happens. Okay, so then further you ask how it differs from the typical. Okay, So what generally happens when we have a when we use our system, we actually learn through our previous experiences. In terms of like, I had experience of like something like I'm at home alone and like somebody knocked the door. So I am in that situation. It's at the flight where like, oh, someone is coming stranger, and my all the senses gets like at higher level, and I actually react accordingly. Like I actually plan my body like what is happening. This is happening through our previous experiences, whatever we learn in the
Your body
previous
has learned.
journey. Yeah. But when it happens with the autism, what they say, they have a lot many paths in the brain. They actually don't form the same path again and again. It is like a many sideway paths. Like so, if you consider like in the dense forest, when people walk on the same route, that actually the route what the people are walking, that becomes a road. But when in the if you consider in the autism brain, they have a different sub pathways are happening. So they are not able to focus at one point, but they are actually taking care of all many sub pathways. That's when the learning
Multiple
also
things at a
gets,
time.
yeah, multiple things, and that's when their brain is actually under stress and they are not able to really follow the same path. So this is what is happening with the kids with the autism, and that's when they have a different learning all together, and they actually show a typical behaviors which is like looks according to the society, it looks kind of
Agree.
abnormal. That's what like it happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
You, yeah, you tell me
well,
if you want me to, did I answer everything or?
yes, 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 definitely. What this is what we wanted to understand. How is it different from the typical sensory? Because we know that everyone have sensory inputs coming in. Everyone reacts to it separately. I mean, in different
Yeah,
ways. So, how is it different when it becomes an issue, as in a
yes,
challenge of sensory
yes,
part?
yes,
So you
yeah.
answered well, yes.
Thank
So,
you.
I've been meeting so many, you know parents, but at the same time, I also got opportunities to meet adults with autism, as well as I've read quite a bit on it. So uh, everyone says the same thing, that stimming is part of their life. The ones who are in spectrum, from them, when we hear this, is they say stimming is part of their life, and that's the way they regulate themselves. The verbal individuals whom I've met. So, how do these challenges impact their daily life? And when
Yeah.
do we actually worry if it is their part of their life? We cannot take it away, right? So, when do we
Yes.
actually worry?
Yeah, this is again really good question because most of the parents who are approached OT, their first thing is like my child is hand clapping. How I can actually stop it? My child is walking on the toes. What do we do to stop this? So it's always when they approach to any professional especially SI therapist, sensory integration therapist, or occupational therapist, their major thing is like I want to stop this. And then like it comes to my mind like, okay, fine, like we are working towards it, and this is not going to be away, but it can be like it is the main source of regulating his own body. The child is actually regulating his own body, and he is actually tries to be get adjusted in the environment. And so self-steaming is like actually normal. Even we all adults are also we do. Like you must be seeing like how do we do, like like breaking our
Moving legs,
knuckles, involuntarily rocking, shaking our legs, and like even the nail biting. So many such things we all do. Now, when it comes to the typical population and the children in the autism, we do see difference because we know like when to do and when to stop. We can actually regulate ourselves. We know this is not the right time. I have to like be alert. Like suppose like I'm in the auditorium and I know I'm actually seated at the place where I am point of attraction. So people are watching me. So I cannot do this nail biting, though I have a very I'm very anxious and I know people are watching me, so I may feel to do a lot of nail biting, but I'll try to control that urge that moment. This is happens with the typical people. But when it comes to the children with autism, they cannot really differentiate between when to do and when to not do. For them, it's every environment is kind of, it's a kind of safe, or maybe even if like they can understand like this, or it might be actually if the environment is difficult or it's a new, they may do more. Actually, self-streaming will happen more and more. So this is what like they really cannot differentiate which when to do, when to stop.
To do.
So this is the self-streaming. And then now I will say, you asked me the question of like when do we worry about that?
Yes.
Okay, so I would recommend, unless and until it is affecting the learning of the child, I wouldn't recommend to stop it. I would say give it more and more meaningful ways of doing it. Like we have to finalize, or we have to help them to finalize the path of making that regulation system to mature so that the child can regulate themselves. And with my experience, I have seen many kids like where it is, I'm not telling like when they are self-streaming, so whole life they will be self-streaming, but there will be more and more matured way of self-streaming, and they will try to understand like how to control it or when to do and when to not do. We often see this is happening when we actually child comes in the therapy setting. They are pretty much at like optimum arousal level where they don't self-esteem, they follow us very well. But when it comes to the unstructured environment at home where the child is not occupied, or it's a something new environment, or in the shopping mall, something where that might be more, so that time the self-streaming is more. This is what, so we as a ot, we actually try to do through the sensory integration method, we try to mature their self-streaming in more and more mature way. So we actually try not to inhibit any responses, whatever the child's body is needed, we are trying to give it through the meaningful activities, and the child's need to self-esteem also is getting balanced, or he can do in a more matured way. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, yes, it does make sense. So, all in all, if I have to say, you say that we have to help them understand different ways of the stimming itself to be developed into a meaningful or something which is helping them
To regulate.
to regulate. And we don't have to worry if it is not interfering in their daily life. We should
Yes.
let them do it, even
Yes,
though
yes.
if it is
Or yeah,
not
so
socially
I actually
accepted
I
or not.
can add, yeah, yeah, sorry. Yeah, socially acceptable, yeah. So we can actually add on like right now, like when the child is really streaming, like suppose the maybe the child is into the special education class
Mm.
and child is having the verbal stream. I would say like okay, fine, let's do this. Like maybe I can also join with him, like whatever he's singing, or we can actually join with him. And then now okay, now it's over, so we will not stop it, we actually give the like some seconds, like 30 seconds to 1 minute to
Lecture.
regulate the child. And then like okay, now let's do this, so that way child also, are you ready, let's start this, so child is also gets ready. And then that still may actually, as he has regulated, so for next 2 minutes maybe he can focus better without sleeping also, that can also happen. So we actually try to make him to sleep, but again it's now work time, let's do this. So it is like that way the child's pathway also gets better.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I that gives a very clear picture. So are there any particular environments or situations which that tend to trigger sensory challenges more than others? How can we help possibly modify it?
Yeah, so as we were talking about, this will happen wherever the challenges are coming. So it can be maybe the child is not well, or sometimes like the child had shifted from one location to the new location, different new school settings, new people handling him in the therapy settings. It can be maybe really something nutritional deficiencies in the child, or too much pressure put on the child, or many such things where like you can actually see the sensory system is at very high alert. and the child shows a lot of behaviors, like it starts with the
A big
sensory and it
crowd.
gets, yeah, the crowd, yeah, the crowded places. So there it may actually aggravate. So that is the thing which we generally see. So we need to really find out what is exact reason also, where like is it like the child is not well, whether the demands are put more, or whether it's a boredom. Sometimes it happens with the boredom also, because that activity I know, and then like child starts steaming. Okay. Actually, to make you understand better, I would say, when what happens when I think maybe we are watching something different language movie, like maybe it's a Korean movie we are watching. So maybe till the like we can understand, we can process, we will be able to attend that, right? As soon as like there will be some time where the maybe the scenes whatever is actually shown, it is like something different, and maybe we lose the cord, like the track, we will not be able to focus. So
Mm.
that happens, right? When like with the kids also, when it is sometimes like we actually do expect many times more also, like maybe the child's capacity to actually focus is only 3 to 5 minutes,
It-
and
mm.
about that if we are trying to do, child will actually tell us to like, stop this, and that's when maybe the sensory skipping is happening. Okay, so that's the way I think we have to really understand exactly what is the reason,
Yes.
and and it many times that's a way of communication also, like where child is telling like I want to do something else, please give me the sensory break. That's what we need to understand.
Also, they could tell when we know we are going into that kind of environment, possibly they could we could tell them in prior, give them
Yeah.
some prior information that you would be going in this place. This is what is expected, so that
Yes.
they are not taken by surprise and there's no trigger.
Yeah. So actually, I will tell you, today was the my day when I started with the child who had actually speech session, and then speech therapist wasn't well. So that moment, rather than actually canceling the session, I took the session.
Okay,
Okay, sorry. And sorry.
no problem, ma'am.
So
Yeah,
okay. So rather than I'll just keep it on the mute. I just
sure, sure, no trouble.
yeah. So rather than canceling the session, I we thought we will do the OT for the child. Okay. And the child is really good in the OT session regularly. That's the usual
In
day
general, yeah.
in general. Okay. But today when the child was expected like to have a, because they have we have alternative like OT speech. So
Hmm.
it was the child's mind also,
But
and
I'm
it's like
expecting the
first,
speech
yeah,
therapist. Hmm.
therapist, yeah. So first 10 minutes went into like where the child was actually going to the that other room where the speech therapy is happening, and like she had a little bit crying, and then we consoled like okay, it's not today that auntie is not available. I started the session in that same room, and then I brought her into the OT room. So this is what happens, like because it's like a prior information to the child also, because really we all need predictability. If the my
Yes.
day is not predictable, I we all like get into like like sudden changes and all that, we cannot take it. And the children with autism, they will have a more that type of difficulty, where if that they
Yeah.
know the like okay, this is my schedule, I will go into this class then another class. And if you really see these days, most of the kids are really very busy with their routine, like the school, then like they have to go for
Therapies and
therapies,
classes
then like
and
the different classes, they do a lot of extracurricular things also, swimming, sketching, and all sort of cycling. And which actually we suggest also, like child needs to be occupied, but simultaneously they need their own time. We
free time.
cannot take it out free time, yeah. So it's not like the child is constantly occupied by some or one adult. It is not, that's not the way. But
Mm.
we all need our own time, me time, that is
Yes.
need to be given to any child.
Yes.
Yeah.
To any of us as well, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yes.
yeah. So, what is your advice to parents and caregivers on supporting individuals with autism during the time of meltdown or sensory overload?
Okay. So when there is a sensory overload, I actually it takes time to analyze. Like we need to analyze the situation why this happened.
Yes.
And if it is happening same regularly, then definitely I think we can understand. We if like we find out like what was the reason, we can
Yeah.
try to modify it according to the need of the child. Suppose like maybe I think today's example if I give, I actually now next time onwards, like even if 5 minutes the child we are canceling the session ahead, I would actually make the mother understand and show the photo of the therapist, like today is like Priya auntie's class. So that way visually we are making the child understand this is what need to be done. Like today is not this auntie's class. So it's a, I think the visual schedule will help to child to regulate what is expected. Then next is meltdown. Like actually when the meltdown happens, I would suggest like give the child to, give the child to calm him down rather than too
Space.
much talk. His own space is required rather than too much talks or expectations like do this and all that. We have to give the child to calm him down or him or her down by whatever the child likes. Suppose like the child likes something like maybe swing or like his visiting toy which he's looking for, or maybe he wants to eat some food or
In
giving the sip
in
of.
general, you suggest that whatever the kid wants at that point of time, we should just provide it rather than trying to control the situation.
Yeah, we shouldn't control the situation and we shouldn't expect the child to do that
To do the
moment
same.
actually. Yeah, just like I think to next 2 to 3 minutes without expecting anything from the child, but child can calm himself. So this is like actually very a big milestone in the child's life to regulate themselves. Like when you are under stress, you cry and but after the crying, you come to the like it happens with all of us, right? When you are stressed up, you feel very bad about you, then you actually feel guilty and all the thoughts comes, and then actually after like some time you realize like okay, this is what like we start accepting, right?
I can think of one more example would be babies, right? They have a
Yeah.
meltdown. We cannot actually tell them what to do, and
Yes.
that could be the very good example to explain, correct?
Yes. So because babies also cannot really communicate, but it's like sometimes hunger, sleep, or it's like
Could be
maybe the child
anything.
wants to go out. Like the situation itself, it's overwhelming for the child, and like I want to go out.
All we can do is talk calm, uh,
Yeah.
because if we scold at that point, they cry louder. I mean, I'm just telling as a
Yeah.
mom.
That happens. That happens actually,
Yeah.
and so we need to give them time to regulate, and they will understand. Like, okay, if you get time, and then you start again. It's like it's not like we're like stopping that moment, but it is not complete stop. We are going to take it further. Okay, and this regulations like gets better because child can regulate. Like fine, like I have a meltdown right now. So they are also giving me some time rather than like okay, do this, like let's do this, rather than maybe like his own time, like with like maybe the child is in the same room. Like you can tell okay, calm down, like it's a break for you, and you can also do something like else, and the child gets little break and then he comes back to you. That happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So ma'am, I have many more questions, but I think the time permits only these many.
Yeah,
So
so
I
no, actually in this case, like maybe I think rocking, like if you really rock the child, like on the ball or like on your like maybe on the lap itself, or a little slow swing, that calms your nervous system, right? So if you do that, also helps the child.
okay.
Yeah.
So that was a good information, ma'am. Thank you. I
Okay.
have many more questions to go, but then I think the time permits only this much.
Okay.
So I may I would request you one more round whenever possible to come and answer us few more questions for us. So thank you so much for doing this for us and for our audience. And that's it. So we'll see you later again.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.